Ooh. I think we're live. Let me just check here. So let me go here. Yeah, I think we are. I think they're already going, Heath, cut it out, Heath. Don't forget to turn on your microphone audio. I don't know, Heath. All right, so now I'm going to, just before we start, I'm still getting organized here, but I'm going to play this video that I did the other day. Now, this is with the A1. So just while I'm doing it, just to give a little bit of context about this, this video was shot with the A1. It was shot in 8K. First time I wanted to try using 8K because I could. And I used sort of a whole heap of lens. I used the 135, the 24 GM, and the 35mm GM. So I'll leave you with this, and then we'll start the show. So let's put this on.
Oh baby, I love your madness. It's so incredibly beautiful. Oh, you shine like gold, so selfless to all, and wild like an animal. Some would say I'm insane in the right in a way, but I just love to play in your fun and your games. Always hungry for more, that's just how I was born. Take me somewhere I don't know, and give me your freedom. Whoa, you love me to pieces, yeah, I need it. Want your pandemonium, life is so easy. Whoa, you love me to pieces, yeah, I need it. Want your pandemonium. The limit of love is endless, I know. Just do what you want with me. Yeah, I want it all. Could care less the cost. I give you my everything. Some would say I'm insane in the right in a way, but I just love to play in your fun and your games. Always hungry for more, that's just how I was born. Take me somewhere I don't know, and give me your freedom. Whoa, you love me to pieces, yeah, I need it. Want your pandemonium, life is so easy. Whoa, you love me to pieces, yeah, I need it. Want your pandemonium. And give me your freedom. Whoa, yeah, me to pieces, yeah, I need it. Want your pandemonium, life is so easy. Whoa, you love me to pieces, yeah, I need it. Want your pandemonium.
Let me just bring that back. Now I want to just make sure that I put this back on. Where was it? I think it's that. Is it that? Yes. Just in case if someone does give me a super chat. So g'day everyone. How are we? Had so much fun with this. I've only got it until I think Tuesday. I've got to send it back. I don't really want to, but I'm not going to talk much about it because I'm going to do a little quick review about it before I send it back. Obviously, this is the 35 1.4 on there as well. Now, Axman said, is that Kiera's little sister? No, it's not. But you know what? She is just a gorgeous girl. Anya put that all together. I gave her a week to put it together. And she made the costume. She did the the makeup. And she also did the whole dance together as well. I just sent her a whole stack of songs that she could choose. And then she put it all together. So, you know, like for a week, it's amazing. And luckily, because we've been put into lockdown again, we're in lockdown for another week now. So I only just made it. But she's a stunning young girl. She's basically into, she's learning dance. She's mad on dancing. And often these girls are so much older, the dancers, than what, a normal girl of her age is. Because you're going to love this, but wait till you see. I'm going to show you an image in a minute. She's 12 years old, Anya. Now, when you look at the images, there's no way on earth you would think that she was 12 years old. Let me just come back here and I'll show you. How do I drag those images over? I think I can just go to desktop. So let me try this. And let me just drag these over and just see if I can bring them over. So yeah, she's just 12 years old. Like, she's amazing. She wants to build a modelling portfolio. She's putting together a portfolio now, working with agencies. So she's doing that now. So, you know, but she's just gorgeous. She did her makeup herself here and everything else. But like I said, she's now building a modelling portfolio up to try and get some professional modelling work. I'll just bring over another image so you can sort of see. Can I move that down? Yeah. But, you know, she's just beautiful. And she's a gorgeous, gorgeous young girl. A mother, of course, because of her age, was with me on the day. I always make sure that their mothers are there when it's a young girl, particularly sort of that age group. I always like to have the mothers there, or someone, you know, that's an adult that can sort of mind them. And that just keeps me safe and it keeps them safe. So it's just a thing that I always do. Although Kerry was with me on their day as well. So Kerry's always with me too on the day. But, you know, she's just beautiful. Now, this, I suppose, if you're looking at this image here, there's no real advantage, I suppose, for having an A1. I mean, you could shoot this with the A7 III. But particularly with this image here, and I'll talk about this when we go through it when I go through the review. But this one was where she was walking away and then she spun around quickly and swung her hair around. And this is where it has an advantage when you're using something like an A9 or an A1, because I did do the 30 frames per second and I grabbed that beautiful moment with her hair in the exact right position. And this is where it has an advantage about having, the fast sort of shutter that you've got there. But you know, I mean, it's great. But stay tuned for the review. I'll have that up soon. But the camera is amazing. I mean, it really is. I mean, there's nothing really I could fault about the camera at all, apart from the crappy rear screen that I've talked about a million times before. But the camera itself is stunning. I mean, it really is fantastic. But, you know, like I said, Anya was amazing. When you watch the dance video and stuff, it's hard to believe she's only 12. But she's just gorgeous. But let me come back to the live here. Now, is that going to go? Oh, do I have to delete these? I probably do I? Let me get rid of that. Let me get rid of that. Let me get rid of that. Yeah, so I'll have the review up probably in the next few days. But let's see who's in the chat before we start the show today. I love Heath. I know, saying don't forget to turn the microphone audio on. I love it. Shadows of Smoke said, bring it on. Greetings from South Florida. How are you, Rocco? Nivak saying hi. Christopher is also saying hi. Axman, wow, he has sound working great. I know. I've made sure today that I turned it on before I started. Heath said, it's working. Are you in lockdown? Yep. The funniest thing is, we had 0 cases 2 days ago, and now we've got 29. But I suppose, look, if you think 29 on a world stage is absolutely nothing, and there's 6 million people locked down because of 29 cases, so I don't know. I mean, look, I just don't know how long this can keep going on for. It's just crazy in a way. But look, the government also is very, very good in regards, at least they're paying us money. I mean, we get $2,800 per week. So at least we're getting money in why it's happening, but it certainly doesn't help the economy. And I'm lucky I don't have rent because my studio is in my house, so I'm lucky. But if you didn't have that, like if you're a restaurant owner, we only got 4 hours notice that we were going into lockdown. So obviously those restaurants have bought all the food and everything like that for the weekend, and they've now just had to throw that all out. So they've lost that. So each lockdown you do, I suppose, zaps a bit of confidence out, and it does make it harder to get work. I mean, weddings are now cancelled again this weekend and things like that. So, I don't know. I just don't know how long this can go on for. They're saying in Australia that we have to get up to 80% vaccination, and that's not just adults, that's everyone has to be vaccinated up to that point before they can open up. And it's pretty tough if you're saying you've got to get to 80%, because I don't know whether we'll ever get there. But it is what it is. So who knows? I mean, who knows what's going to go on anyway. So it is like that. I mean, we've got Sydney in lockdown now, or New South Wales. We've got Queensland in lockdown. We've got Melbourne in lockdown. It's just a bit crazy. Sooner or later, they're going to have to learn to live with it, I think. But anyway, we'll see what happens. So let's keep going. Let's see. Rocco said greetings from West Florida. I was there as well. Let me have a look. Axman said he has the sound working great. I read those before, actually. Mark is here as well, saying hello all. Chris is saying, hello, David. Hot day in Los Angeles. You're having a Miller Lite. Well, we've only got another 4 weeks until we're into spring. So it won't be long and I'll be having probably Coronas again with you guys. I'm having tea this morning. My amazing daughter-in-law bought me some, Kerry and myself, some beautiful cakes, and also tea this morning. Got delivered because we're in lockdown, but she got them delivered for me this morning. So she's amazing, Chantel. Can't wait to eat those after this. What else have we got? Barry's saying good morning. Rob said some of those streets look a little sketchy. Well, they're not, Rob. They're actually amazing. Melbourne is really well known for its artwork, and the artists some of it's graffiti, but other is beautiful artworks. And Melbourne's very, very famous for that. So the streets aren't dangerous at all. You never ever feel threatened walking through those areas or anything like that at all. It's sort of a very, very touristy, or not that we have many tourists at the moment because we're in lockdown, but they're very tourist areas. A lot of wedding shots get done in there, and they're always been used for filming. The whole of Melbourne is like that. It has these little laneways and alleyways and things like that all through it, and it's what I adore so much about Melbourne. If you're into photography and video particularly, Melbourne is probably one of the nicest places that I've ever been to that you can shoot in. We're very, very lucky to have a city like that so close. Axman said, is that Kiara's little sister? No, it's not. Hopefully I'll get to work with Kiara again. It's just she's working now full time, so it's hard to get the time to be together. Andy Moore said, hi, David. We'll start the show in a minute. I'd just like to say hello to everyone. Joe said, greetings from Los Angeles. It's 109 degrees today. Wow. I think we're only going to be, about 16 degrees Celsius today. I like the change of seasons, though, but, some don't, some do. So the big question is, if you have a version of the Tamron 28-75, is there enough difference for version 2? I'm going to talk about that today as one of the stories, so stay tuned for that and we'll discuss it. Here's a great picture. Axman said, stunning. Thank you so much. Lockdown is ridiculous. Governments aren't looking at the signs, only wanting to control its citizens. End of the rant. Sorry, David. Do you find any of your clients, or do they find you? No, they find me, Raymond. I never. Sometimes, look, if I do a shoot, and I've got a particular reason for it, I will look for someone, like on Instagram or something like that. But most of the shoots that I do are paying shoots. Anya is doing modelling with me, so they've paid. I mean, her mother has paid to do these shoots. That's nearly all the girls that you see me shoot with have paid. Kiara originally paid, or a mother did, I should say. But then we obviously worked together because I was just doing videos. So, sometimes I do that as well. But no, I don't sort of look for people. They always find me. Bad said, hi David. Raymond said, best attracts the best. Thank you so much. John said, good day, David. Langston said, lurking while editing. We have over 3,000 a day in LA. I know, that's why I'm saying it's just so crazy. And you're talking about LA. I'm talking about the whole of Victoria that's locked down here. It's a state that's, massive. But, oh well, I suppose it's certainly better than seeing people die, I suppose. Well, I shouldn't say I suppose. It is better than seeing people die. It just, I don't know how long, like I said, that this can go, though. That eventually they're going to have to learn to live with it like the flu, I believe. But they're just waiting on vaccinations to be up to a point where, that everyone has had the chance to be vaccinated. And I think that's probably what's going to happen. Melissa said, morning, David, from lockdown number 6. Yep, this is our 6th lockdown. How are you, Melissa? She's another Victorian like me. That hurts the economy. Later on, they borrow money, your big tax dollars. Yeah, I know. See, that's the problem. Eventually, it's all got to be paid back, doesn't it? The government is giving you your own money from your own wallet. Yep, true. We are not going to see lockdown lifting anytime soon, Brett said, because Brisbane were in lockdown as well. I just had to send my Sigma 100-400 in to have the firmware updated. I know, I hate that. Look, that's the one thing that I love about the Sony and also the Tamron lenses. You can upgrade the firmware in the camera. And that's what's great about having that. And I think Sony have obviously given Tamron that ability to do that because, they own part of that lens. So, I think they own 10% or something like that. So, it's good that that's one of the great advantages about having a Tamron lens. The colours look good and the resolution. Yeah, the resolution was amazing, Joseph. And I did look at that, and I did that deliberately. When you're looking at this image here, and this was interesting because I wanted to do it because I don't shoot this way. When you're looking at the image here of Anya, this was a full-length body shot, and I cropped in to this, and this was shot wide, in other words. It was shot landscape. So if you do shoot this, and like I said, if I was shooting with the A7S III, I would have shot this exactly in this position. But I knew I had the resolution here, so I just didn't bother. And I wanted to try cropping in to see how it would look. So the interesting thing here is, the resolution's outstanding. It is. It's incredible. And, you've got that ability to sort of make multiple shots from one shot. It still doesn't change my thinking about what I'm like with the Sony A7S III, because I still think, for me, the A7S III is a better fit. But to have that ability to be able to crop in like that if you want to is incredible. And like I said, this was shot full body, and I could crop into this sort of size and still have incredible resolution there. So there's definite advantages if you want to shoot this way. And I said that too when I was sort of talking about the A7S III was the best wedding photography camera that I've ever had, and I still believe that's the case for me. But if you shoot with the ability to crop, and that's how you shoot, the A1 is just unbelievable. It really is. And like I said, that cropping is there, and the resolution is still, unbelievable when you look at what it can do. And it's this. Anyway, I'll leave that for talking about the review. But it's certainly an amazing camera, that's for sure. Colours look good. Colours, I think. To me, looking at the colours between the two, I should try and do... The problem was now I had an intention to shoot over the weekend, but now that we're in lockdown, I can't do that. I wanted to grab my grandkids, two gorgeous young girls, and I was going to do a comparison between the A7S III and the A1 to do colour analysis, but I can't do that now. I'm sure... If I ask Kerry, she'll scream because she'll say I don't want to do it, but I'd love to do that. But I think looking at the images in Capsule 1, the colour science is very, very close between the A1 and the A7S III. I think they're very, very close in that regard. But you certainly couldn't say that the A1 is not brilliant in colour. It certainly is, and it's brilliant in colour in JPEGs and RAW. I mean, the one that I showed you before, this was basically straight out of camera JPEG. This hasn't had any retouching done or anything, and it's amazing. So this is basically straight out of camera. It's only had the initial import brought into Capture One, and you know the skin tones and everything look gorgeous. So Sony have definitely improved their color science over a period of time. They've just got better and better and better, and I noticed it quite a bit. I noticed initially when I looked at the A9 II, that definitely had better colour science than the A9 I that I have. And then when I got the A7S III, I could see a real jump up. And it really now is quite beautiful, the colour science, you know, the colour look that they get in that. And I think the A7S III and the A1 basically are the same if you look at colour. That's just looking at me, looking at the images straight out of Capture One without any editing anyway. What else? Let's just see down here. Joseph said hello from California. Cameron said, g'day David. G'day Cameron. Yep, 29 cases we've got today. Yep. Just waiting for West Australia to catch up re-lockdown. I don't know. Perth aren't in lockdown at the moment, Dave. They're basically clear. But Perth is unusual because Perth, which is a city in Australia, is so isolated to the rest of Australia. It takes basically 2 days to drive over there, and there's not really much at all in between. I suppose unless they let someone in that has it, the chances of Perth getting it bad is pretty slim because they're so isolated. But sooner or later, Perth has to open up, and then you get the same issue. But hopefully they'll all be vaccinated by then. All right, so let's get started with today's stories, because I've got a couple of interesting stories to share with you, and I've got some interesting thoughts to share with you as well. Because, let me just come up to here. I am on the first story, aren't I? Yep. So let me switch over to the news, and I've got to go browser. Now, I wanted to talk about this because I put it in the headings about the A7 IV, and I think they're both related to this story, to be honest, or they're going to be related to this story. Because what they're saying is that the Sony Alpha rumours were saying this morning that announces a delay for the A7S III. Now, I've checked, and they are still available all over the place at the moment, but obviously, as they sell now, they may not be replaced for a while. I'm talking about the A7S III. But I think this is also going to have a problem with the A7 IV, but I'll talk about that in a second. But what I wanted to sort of talk to you here is it's saying, let me just enlarge this a little bit just so we can sort of see it. Due to production reasons, it may take some time before the product is delivered for the digital single lens camera A7S III. We are currently making every effort to meet the needs of our customers, so please wait for a while. We deeply apologise for any inconvenience caused. Now, I think that if you're looking at this, what's going on here is that it's the chip shortage. I'm sure it's the chip shortage that's caused this to happen. And I think what's happening here, that shush Siri, they've probably got a stack of parts of the body made, but then they're waiting on the other chips to be done. I believe like GM in the US, for instance, has stacks and stacks of cars, probably thousands of cars just sitting there waiting for chips to come in before they can finish them. And it's probably going to be the same thing too with the cameras as well. And I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon. But why I wanted to mention the A7 IV in this discussion was because I still think the announcement will be made sometime September, October. I still think that's the time that the announcement's going to be made. Now, I believe that even though the announcement's going to be made, there will be a limited release. Now, why I say limited release is because of the chip shortage. They're not going to be able to produce thousands or millions of them, or whatever, how many they sell. But they're not going to be able to say release all at once because the chip shortage is going to stop that. There's two ways of thinking about this. Have they now slowed down with the A7S III release with the chip shortage so that they can put that hardware into the A7 IV? That's possible. So that's one way of looking at this, that they may be doing that to say, grab those chips and save them for the A7 IV. I'm not convinced that's probably the case, but I'm just saying that is a possibility. What I think is going to happen, though, is it will be still announced. because I think Sony have to do that. And I think what will happen is it will be announced. There'll be a delay of, say, a month or something like that before you could get your hands on one. Then there'll be a limited release. Now, I do think that this, and I say this to you in all honesty, that if you want an A7 IV, I think the second that camera is announced, you must pre-order it. Because I think what will happen is, it's going to be so limited. Do you remember initially it was quite hard to get the A7 III? It took ages. Oh, Greg gave me a donation. Let me just click on that just so people can see it, because thank you so much, Greg. Let me bring that up. $5. Happy lockdown number 6. Thanks so much, Greg. Really appreciate that. Greg is an amazing guy. Actually, if you need any insurance too, Greg doesn't pay me to say this, but if you do need camera insurance, I get my camera insurance through Greg. So contact Greg. He is amazing, and he gives you such a great service. So yeah, it's terrific, and he specialises in camera insurance. So please contact him for that if you need anything. And like I said, he doesn't pay for that at all. But I do believe that it's going to be in such short supply that it's going to take months and months to get it. And that's due to the chip shortage. So my suggestion to you, and this is why I wanted to put this down on the heading of the show today, if you really want an A7 IV, and I do believe the A7 IV is probably going to be a mini A7S III and a mini A1 combined. And I really do believe that. I think it's going to hit everything out of the park. I've got a feeling it's just going to be incredible. They will cut back on some features that it has, obviously, but I still think it's going to be outstanding. And remember, when the A7 III was released, it really did beat the A7S III. Apart from the ridiculous high ISOs, the A7 III beat it in most regards. So it's particularly in low light video. So let me just click on this too, because Long Rider just gave super chat. $5 from Long Rider. I need assurance. Laugh out loud. Thanks so much, Long Rider. So I do think it's probably going to be a mini A7S III and a mini A1. Now, I think the body, like I've said, I think the body will be the same, so that's probably not going to be an issue. It's going to be the same sort of body as an A1, or, well, not as an A1. It'll probably be the same as an A7S III, or the, basically that new model like the A7 IV. So it'll have that. I think it will have the new menus. I don't think they're going to hold back on any of that. And it will probably have incredible autofocus. Now, I've noticed one thing, and this is going to surprise a lot of people when I say this, but I use the A7S III all the time, and I didn't notice that when I was using both cameras sort of independently, I wouldn't say that the A7S III is a slouch at all if you're dealing with stills and autofocus. In fact, it's incredible. The A1 obviously is better, but it's not to the point where I would think that, wow, it's just incredible. I've got to get the A1 because it's so much better than the A7S III. So I think if the A7 IV has the same sort of tracking and autofocus that the A7S III has, it's still going to be an absolutely incredible camera. It probably will have a usable electronic shutter this time. The previous one was not really usable. I mean, it is as long as nothing moves, but if anything moved, it wasn't usable. So I think this is going to have a usable electronic shutter. The only thing I would say is it's obviously going to be an issue with some of the chips that run inside this are going to be the thing that's hard to get, and due to the chip shortage. So all I'm saying to people is, if it is announced like I still think it will be, if you are wanting to get the A7 IV, make sure you get it or put it on pre-order immediately, because I think they are going to be as rare as hen's teeth to get for a number of months. And I think it might be the fact that you have to wait until early next year. So if you did want one, say if it's announced in September and then they say it's going to be released in November, if you don't get that initial pre-order because of the chip shortage, I think you'll be waiting months. So it's just a warning for people to look out for that. Let me just see if anyone is asking any questions about that. Greg was saying Tassie has a lot of water, but planes fly over. Yeah, Tasmania's sort of separate. I know he's talking. Oh, yeah. So he was saying, no, it's not locked down in Perth at the moment. Evening all. Wow, I've made a live here in the UK. Well, thank you for joining us, Michael, because it's pretty late over there. Axman said hit the like button. Yeah, really would appreciate that, guys, too, if you could hit that like button. It does make a big difference. Particularly seeing I'm, like unsponsored. Thanks so much for the super chat, Greg. Altric said, hey, everyone. So Altric's in here. Good morning, David, and a big hello to everyone. And lockdown again, I know, Leslie. Juicy said, morning, David. Long Rider gave me a donation. Altric said, damn, already 1 thumbs down. Doesn't matter, Altric, because it's still counted as a interaction, so it still helps the channel, which is quite funny, really. What else have we got? So do you think the A9 III will come? I'm not convinced, Altric, because there's 2 thoughts in this, and it's interesting. With the A9 III, I think it all depends on how good the A7 IV is that they bring out. If the A7 IV sort of matches what the current A9s do, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if the A7 IV does match what the current A9s do, we might not see that camera developed any further. It might just be that we sort of get a new A1, in the coming months. Oh, by the way, there was also another interesting thing too. I think I just got another super chat. I did. What was that one for? Oh, just gave me a super chat for no reason. Thanks, Andy Moore. Thanks so much. So I also wonder too if there is going to be a shortage. I'm just going back, and I'm doing this because I remembered thinking about this. If the A7S III is delayed for a period of time and then they start shipping it out again, I wonder if there'll be an A version like the other cameras that were released with a better screen. I would not be surprised if that happens, and that could be another thing too about being delayed. And I just thought that is a possibility. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. But with the A7, with the A9 III. I'm not convinced, and I'd love to know your thoughts about this, and you can sort of pop that down in the chat below, particularly if you're not watching live. I know some may sort of chime in live now, but I think it all depends on what the A7 IV has. If the A7 IV is groundbreaking, which I believe it probably will be, there may not be a need for the A9 III. It might just be that you'll go for the A7 IV. If you want to jump up from that, you could be the A9 II. And then if you needed to go a little bit higher from that, you could then go to the A1. But, it's an interesting scenario, and I'm not convinced there will be an A9 III. But let me know in the live chat too if you think that's the case. A7S III, still a top-selling camera. Yeah, it's amazing. Oh, the A7 III, yeah, it is, Brett. That's right. It's still selling like crazy. I'm so excited, though, about what an A7 IV would be. A9 discontinued. Oh, is it? So the A9's discontinued now. Wow, I didn't even know that. If you can get that cheap, it's still an incredible camera. I still love my A9. Hello, David. Just joined. Did they announce a release date for the A7 IV? No, not yet, Rick. I'm still predicting late September. But we'll have to see now. Like I said, the chip shortage may have changed everything. Langston said, my only problem with the A7S III Live run into is the size of the files. Are you talking about, what are you talking about for photos, Langston, or are you talking about for video? If you're shooting video and you're shooting the highest resolution, yes. I mean, look, the issue too is when I shot with the A1, I shot 8K, and I can tell you my little Mac Mini struggled. And that's the M1 version. It was fine if I'm using one track, but the second I wanted to put 2 tracks on top of one another, it just couldn't handle it. So you are going to need a really beefy camera if you're going to be shooting that. Now I shot, I'll tell you how I shot, because I shot as high as it could go. Let me just go to here. Oops. I've got to go to movie actually. All right, so let me see what the megabits was. So I shot XAVC HS 8K. So I shot with that. As you can see here, is it going to come in focus? Focus, come on. Focus, baby. Come on. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so I shot with the XAVC HS, and then the movie settings, I shot with 25p, because that's the maximum I could go up to under PAL. I think it was 30p if you were shooting NTSC. And it was shot at 400 megabits, 420 10-bit. Let me just see if I can get that to focus again. So they are pretty big file sizes. Now, it's not 422. So, you know, I mean, it's certainly not as nice as if you're shooting 422, but I could just imagine if you were shooting 8K, 422 10-bit files, it would have just been totally unmanageable. I certainly couldn't edit it on my M1 Mac, which is the highest M1 Mac at the moment you can get. It had the 16 gigabytes of RAM. It definitely struggled the second I put 2 in. I even tried to transcode the footage to ProRes RAW just to see if that helped, and it didn't make any difference. So you are going to need a beefy computer if you're dealing particularly with the 8K files. Let me just keep coming down. The A7 IV has got to bring better touch control and the camera functions, I think. Sony is playing catch up with the other brands. Yep, I agree. And that will definitely happen. I'm hoping next Sony sends me one of the newer screens with the better monitor at the back. The A7, what is it, the A7 III-A or the A7 IV-A, because that was next on the list. So I'm hoping that comes as another camera down the track, because I'd love to see how much better that actually is. They definitely could improve the touch functions, though. I mean, look, we know Sony are brilliant. If you look at their mobile phones, the Xperia lines are incredible. So we know they can do it. It's just a matter of when they give us that. I find, even though the touch functionality is there, it's interesting because I forget, and I do forget it's actually there, and I still use the controls. I still think the A9, I'd love the A7S III to have the same features as the A1 or the A9 series cameras. I love the extra control, you know, that you get from the extra dial. I mean, it really is just beautiful to have these extra controls, and then I get so used to it that then when I'm using something like the A7S III or whatever, you know, I'm sort of hunting for those features, and I think that's just wonderful. I really wish this would be incorporated as their design in every camera that they produce, because it really is just a stunning design, and I just love that extra control that gives you, the ability, you know, to change your going from your high shutter and things like that, and also your focus modes and stuff like that on the fly is brilliant with the A1. So I wish that had sort of come with everything. But the touch screen doesn't bother me that much in the fact that I don't use it really that much. The resolution bothers me a little bit more, definitely, and also the brightness bothers me a little bit more. I'd prefer to have a really nice, bright, great resolution screen at the back, even if it didn't incorporate the touch. But yeah, I mean, that's just me, but everyone sort of wants different things. Let me just come down here. Langston said, also the color black, but I don't know if any AF camera that has no issues with black. Well, you're saying it doesn't do blacks really well, Langston, or A6 600 versus the ZE V10, which one is better? Well, it depends if you want weather sealing for one. I think if it was me purchasing those cameras at the moment, I probably would buy the ZVE10. The only thing you'll miss, I suppose, is you're going to lose the better battery because you're not getting the Z battery. The in-body stabilization on the A6 600 is there, but I suppose if you get a lens that has stabilization, it's going to be usable. I'd prefer the flip-out screen. For me, I'd probably go with the ZVE10, but that's me. David, do lenses involve a lot of chips, or are we lucky in a lack of shortage in that? No, it probably will affect it eventually, because yes, they do. There is chips involved in lenses as well, but I suppose you could say they just don't have as many chips in a lens as what, say, a camera or something like that would be. So, yeah. Thanks so much, Annie Moore, for the super chat. No, Altric hasn't been in live for a while, so it's good to see you here. David, if the A7 IV is announced in September, we'll give the specs of it. Yeah, well, I certainly would be, yeah. I mean, like I said, as a guide, I think it'll probably be around 30 megapixels. I've got a feeling it's going to be around that area. It will definitely shoot 4K 60, possibly 4K 120, but I don't think it's going to have the high bit depths that the, say, the A7S III has. It might be that they do hold off giving you 422 and it will give us 420. I mean, that's a possibility. It'll definitely have the same card structure what the A7S III has, the CF Express A plus your SD cards. It'll have the new menu on the back. It'll have the focusing what the A7S III has. Probably a little bit of an improvement. It's probably going to be a mix between the A7S III and the A1. But, you know, I think it's going to be great. But, I mean, it is all speculating at the moment, but that's sort of a guide about what it will be. Randy said, hello from Canada. I just stopped myself from buying an R6 in order to wait for the A7 IV. Hope I made the right decision. Well, if you're not in any hurry, Randy, it probably is a good idea to wait. It just depends. If you need the camera now, well, then you obviously need a camera now and you're going to have to make a decision. Not many of us can afford the A1. Well, I certainly can't at the moment, that's for sure. But if you have the money, if you did have the money to purchase the A1, it's brilliant and it's worth every cent that you would pay for it. It certainly is. I mean, there's nothing better, you know, a camera that I've ever used in that regard. So it is a stunning camera, and if you've got the money, I think it probably would be a no-brainer. Rick said, all I want from a new A7 IV, better screen, new focus and menu, same megapixel and same cost. Thanks, that's not too much to ask. I think it probably will be a little bit more expensive than the A7 III was on release. It's going to be interesting. It depends on what they offer in that camera, though, what we get in it. You know, I think, but I still think it's going to be amazing value for what you get. Agree about the A9 III. If the camera market is thinning out, more sensible for Sony to concentrate on less models, all upsell. Yeah, and that's the issue. I just don't know, do we need it? And this is the thing I was saying about an A9 III. Do you really think we need it now? If you know, like if you get an A7 IV that can do 20 megapixel, 20 frames per second, which I think it probably will, I would be surprised if it doesn't. Full electronic, which I think you'll probably get on that now. Remember, it's a long time since the A9 and the A9 II have been released. The gap is fairly extensive now to getting the A7 III. So I think we're going to get really good features in the A7 IV. So I'm not sure it's needed anymore. I really don't. And it's such a niche camera now that when I say niche camera, the fact that you don't get your picture profiles in there if you're shooting video and things like that. I mean, I think if it'd be an interesting to see where they would put a price point on an A9 III, and then whether you'd be just better to jump and save and get the A1. It's interesting because really, you know, the A1 has everything in it that you could ever want. But like I said, it's $10,000 Australian. So, you know, and it's, what is it, 7,000 US, I think. But that has absolutely every single thing in it. I think the little letdown with the A9 series is, and I was always hoping that it came out, but there's no picture profiles on there. So it becomes an issue. It's got great video, terrific video, but you can't use S-Cinetone, things like that. You can't even simulate S-Cinetone in it by changing the settings because there's no picture profile. So I think that's a downer for the A9 series. And then if they started to add that in, well then how does that sort of, where does that fit in between, say, the A7 III and the A1? And I just don't know if there's room anymore for the A9 III, but I could be completely wrong. They might just release a camera that's amazing, but we'll have to see. Let me just keep coming down. I've read that before. Let me go down here. I read that one. Agree about the A9 III. I read that one. Really surprised that Sony doesn't give you the option to upgrade your A7S III screen. And you know what? I think, Dave, that would be the best thing that Sony could do because I think they'd make a fortune from that. I would upgrade the screens in a heartbeat if I could upgrade the screens of the A7 III, the A7S III, all my A9s, well, yeah, all, I should say, my one A9. And what a fantastic thing, too, if you could upgrade the A1 to that better screen. And I think people would pay for it. And I think it would be a great option for Sony to do as an upsell. And I think, I mean, let me know in the live chat, would you pay, if it was reasonable, would you pay to upgrade your screen on the back of your current camera to the better screens if Sony gave you that ability? I'd love to know. I certainly would. I certainly would pay for it. Altric said, I love my A9s also, was waiting on their A9 III. Yeah, I'm just not sure if it's going to happen, but I don't know, Altric. I mean, you know, I'm guessing as much as anyone else. The A1 is a real gem. It certainly is, Heath. Yeah, it's an amazing camera. Discontinued A9 probably means a new A9 may be on the way. Could be. It could be, Rick. Like I said, I'm only guessing. But I just noticed you've added your wife's image to the profile pic. Very sweet of you. Yeah, I took my daughter off. Poor Bianca. I dumped her and put Kerry on there. I thought I better upgrade the image. Did you sell your A9? No, I've still got it. I love it. I still love it. The issue for me is I love shooting the A7S III so much that I just don't use it as much as I did. I still think if I was buying a camera today, I would buy another A7S III. And I really do believe that. I think it meets all of my needs, particularly, like I said, the look of the files is just unbelievable. The resolution for me is not an issue, and I just love everything about the camera. I love the flip-out screen. I did notice when I was using the A1 that I really missed the flip-out screen, particularly when I was shooting video. And I said that to Kerry, that I really missed that aspect of it, because sometimes, particularly if you're going to be shooting, you know, like really low to the ground, or you're going this way, not having that ability to bring out the screen sort of flat down here, I've got used to shooting that now with the A7S III, so I missed that. I mean, boy, if they brought out an A1 with the fold-out screen, or gave people the option, like two versions, one version with the screen normally and then one version with a flip-out screen, it would be incredible, because the video is so powerful on this, you know, on this camera, that if you can shoot 8K and then down res to 4K and then be able to blow that up, you know, it is just outstanding. And the video autofocus is superb. The only thing I really missed was the screen. Yeah, I have to say that. But I would buy an A7S III tomorrow if I had the money, and I was out for another camera, for sure. Have you used the Canon R5? Any thoughts? No, I haven't, but I'd love to, because I think the Canon R series are terrific. I really do. I would love to have that option, the opportunity to try them out. Are you shooting stills with the A1 during weddings? No, because we haven't had. It's winter here, Altric, so I haven't had a wedding that I can shoot. We're in the middle of winter, so all I've done, like I said, the issue was I only had this for 2 weeks. And I've only been able to shoot Anya, which we went out into Melbourne the other day, and I plan to do some shoots this weekend with it, but now we're in lockdown, so I can't. So I've got to base all my review on doing the shoots that I did in Melbourne. But I've certainly now got a good enough understanding that I could review it to, say, talk about it. This would be an unbelievable wedding camera. I mean, look, there's no doubt about the fact that this probably would be, well, it would be. It would be an incredible wedding camera. If you could justify the file size. Remember, I used to have an A7 III, and I never used it in weddings. I used it just for the occasional shot because of the file size. And I discussed that in the video that I did, was why I thought the A7S III was the best wedding camera available. But if you were the type of wedding photographer that crops, and crops a lot, you could not beat this camera at all. It is unbelievable. If you're like me and you don't crop in post, the A7S III is ample. That's why I'm saying I'd buy an A7S III tomorrow. NZCO said, Greg Thomas emailed me about insurance. So, Greg, he'd like you to send off an email. Yeah, I thoroughly recommend Greg. He's terrific. And like I said, Greg is a friend. He has not asked me to plug him at all. Babylon said, 422 10-bit is a must, particularly if you're grading. Yes, it is. Just let me come down, because I think I had another donation. Oh, Panda, thank you so much. Panda's in here. Stop teasing, sir. Makes some people happy. I love it. Let me just come down. Where was I up to? Because I want to move on to the next story in a minute, but I want to go through these questions about it. Yeah, 422 is look, it definitely is a must if you want to grade heavily in Final Cut or your editor. And that's something you do have to understand. There's a massive difference between 420 and 422. Now, the average user may not notice it, but where you do notice it particularly is if you grade heavily, and you will also notice in things like skies and stuff like that, because you can start to get banding and it becomes a little bit messy. To have 422 is terrific. Particularly, it's very, very important if you're using things like green screens, because it gives you that ability to really get a beautiful edge on something like a green screen. It depends really on what you want. If you want to keep the file size down, though, you can go to 420 and shoot that way. And really, for most people, they would not notice the difference. If you're grading heavily or you really want to push, the edit around a lot, 420 is really a must, I agree. That's why full-on videographers will always shoot in 420. If they've got it available, of course. Altric also said, I would also like to know about insurance as well, from Greg. The only A1 I can afford is the Source. It's an American Source, isn't it, Sam? Let me go here. Big files from the A1. Yeah. I mean, look, they are. And I noticed it straight away because I'm now using the A7S III so much to shoot portrait shots and everything else that I'm doing. I noticed immediately when I put the A1 files in how much... Look, I wouldn't say, because the A1 computer, the M1 computer, is really, really good and it's quite fast. But I did notice a difference in, say, moving the files around, how long it took to import the files in, and the storage difference is massive. But like I said, if you want the resolution, you need it. Would love to see Sony do a retro-style camera like the Nikon ZFC. I'd love that too, because I do love those sort of retro-y dials that you can get there as well. I figure the A7 IV has to be more expensive because it has a slow release and they can't do the numbers to make money back quickly. Yeah, you're probably right. It's going to be interesting to see where they price it, but I still think it's going to be under $3,000, Langston. That's what I think anyway. Big files and tiny memory cards. I'm ready to launch an Inception-style heist to get my Sony to bring B-roll. B-roll would be great if they could do it for that as well. All right, we better move on anyway. Let me just go to the next story just so we can talk, because I want to talk about the Tamron lenses, because, wow, this is pretty incredible. Let me just go here. I got a notification the other day. I spoke to someone from Tamron, and they did mention about these lenses. And it's really quite exciting what Tamron are now starting to do, particularly. Now, I did notice, and I forgot to mention this actually, that I did notice just before I discussed this, that Sony Alpha Rumors the other day said that there was going to be an upgrade of the 24-70 and the 70-200 GM lenses. And I did discuss that the other day, and I think that's correct. I've said for months now, and people that watch me would know that, because I've talked about that for a long time, that I believed that those lenses needed to be updated. And I said the other one should be the 85 1.4. That's the other lens. But the two zooms that I think will be upgraded this year are going to be the 70-200 and the 24-70 GMs. I've got no doubt that's probably going to happen. But let me just come back, because this is really interesting, because Tamron have said they're developing, and I can't wait to get these. Obviously, I have a good relationship with Tamron Australia, so they'll send me these as soon as they get them in Australia. But Tamron are developing a 35 150, and get a load of this. It's an F2 to 2.8 to, sorry, an F2 to an F2.8. And they're also doing a new 28 to 75 millimeter F2.8 for E-mount. Now, this is the first zoom lens that I've seen. I'm almost 100% certain that Sony don't have one native on the E-mount that's an F2 zoom lens. But the interesting thing is that they're saying it's going to be the G2 lens. Now, I can tell you that the G2 lenses that I've used for Nikon are unbelievably good, like incredible lenses. So I think these are going to be a massive step up. Now, I love my 28 to 75. That's one of the lenses that I grab out all the time. And it's one lens particularly that I leave on when I do weddings. And I think now that they're saying that this is going to be the G2 version of this lens, this is going to be a massive step up from what we've already got. Now, I can't sort of believe how much difference this is probably going to make, because the 28-75 for me is already a very, very good lens, like very, very sharp. But I did remember when I reviewed for Tamron, you guys may not have seen it because I reviewed it on a Nikon camera, but I reviewed their 35mm G series lens, and that was the one, their anniversary lens, and that was probably one of the nicest lenses I've ever used in my life. And I have used the G2 series lenses on Nikon as well. I think that these lenses, that 28 to 75 millimeter G2 lens, is going to be probably the nicest lens on the Sony system. And when I'm saying, I'm talking about zoom lenses, because I know how good the G2 lenses actually are. And now that they've made all these advancements in their focusing mechanisms and everything else, I think this is going to be absolutely outstanding. And this one really excites me. And I've got the 28-75, and when I get some money, I can tell you I'm going to buy I will be buying this one, because I know even before I look at this, it's going to be brilliant. So I'm so excited about it. Tamron has published development announcements for a duo of incoming lenses. The first is the 28-75 f2.8 Di3 VXD G2, and the second is the 35-150. I mean, what a great combination to put together. That 35-150 will be an amazing wedding lens to carry around. I mean, f2. It probably will be f2 at, I'm not sure what it's going to be, the focal length. It might be, say, that at 35 to whatever. But when you think it's only going from f2 to 2.8, you might get that f2 aperture right the way up, apart from the, say, getting close to its maximum focal length. Both will be released for Sony E-mount cameras. And I'm not sure these must be the product announcements, just the typical Tamron style of lenses, which are amazing. I mean, they certainly, the build quality and the water sealing is terrific. Let me just read a little bit more about this as well. They're saying the 28-75 2.8 GM is Tamron's successor to the original 28-75. Like, I'm surprised really how quickly they've brought this out. I mean, it really has come out fairly quickly. And it's saying the company says the new model will retain the compact size, so they're going to keep the 67mm filter thread. And I love that, because all of their lenses are all 67. And it even matches up with my GM24, and it matches up too with the 35 as well, because this is 67 as well. I'm pretty sure it was, wasn't it? Yep. So I love that aspect of it. I love how light, how robust the Tamron lenses are. Speaking of the design, they're saying the update will be more comfortable to operate and it has a more ergonomic texture. While it will still be compact, it will also feature a new optical construction that Tamron says has been revamped to enhance its imaging performance and make it compatible with the latest digital cameras that offer high resolution. So in other words, they're probably tailoring this lens to, say, resolve, like up to a 100 megapixel camera. I would be probably surprised if that wasn't the case, because I think Sony eventually is going to, say, do another A7 IV or whatever we want to be, and it probably could be up to 100 megapixel. The autofocus system is Tamron's VXD voice coil extreme torque drive linear focus mechanism. Now, the Tamron lenses, particularly the newer ones, focus superbly fast. Actually, the 28-75 is extremely fast, but I have noticed that the newer lenses that I've tested from Tamron have been super quick. So I would think this one is going to be absolutely outstanding. And was chosen for its high speed and accuracy, and it's also dead silent if you want to use them in video, so that's another really good feature about it too. The lens will have a minimum focusing distance of 7.1 inches at the wider end and a maximum magnification of 1.27. So in other words, it's not quite as good in the macro as the previous version, but it's still pretty good. Tamron expects the 28-75 to launch sometime in 2021, but was not more specific on the timing. So sometime this year. And like I said, I'll get it before it's released, so I can't wait to get that. That's the 28-75. Let's look at the Tamron 35-150. Obviously, it's going to have a, the barrel lens that will come out, or a telescopic part that will come out. But let's read what they're saying here. Tamron says that the 35-150 will be the world's first mirrorless zoom lens with a maximum wide aperture of f2 for Sony E-mount cameras. The company believes that the wide range and focal length offered of this lens will make it ideal for travel photography. And like I said, I think this will be a brilliant wedding lens. I really do. If you put it, say, on and then use clear image zoom, wow. Where were we? Like the 28-75 G2, the 135-150 f2 2.0 will feature the same autofocus motor and will likewise also feature new design that has been made to enhance operability and the ergonomic texture. Expected to launch in 2021. That's all they're really saying at the moment. They're also saying here that both of Tamron's new lenses will be compatible with Tamron's lens utility software that connects lenses to computers via the connector port of the body of these lenses. And it's saying it allows it to update firmware and customize shooting functions such as focus set buttons and the focus zoom ring. So that's interesting. I've never heard about that before. The other nice thing too about this is that you can also update the firmware through the camera with these as well. Although they're saying there's going to be utility for that, which is interesting. So how good like I've said to you before, how blessed are we in the Sony realm that we're getting these incredible lenses. It's going to really be interesting to see how the G2 version of the 28-75 compares with the new G Master that comes out. That's going to be a real battle, and that will be really interesting to see how they compare. It might just come down to the fact of whether you want the lens to be slightly wider, whether you need the 24mm focal length or not, and that could be something that, could make you, say, decide to go with the GM, or whether you'd just be happy enough to go with the Tamron. I like the Tamron too because the 75mm gets me close to the 80mm, which is great for portraits. So I love that focal length, probably more than I need the wider lens, because if I'm going to use any wider than that, I'll use the 24GM I've got. And I love that lens too. But wow, I mean, it's like I said, we're so blessed. I'm going to keep going because then I'll come back to the chat. Let me just come back to browser because I've just got a couple of little news articles that I wanted to share with you. They're saying in here that the latest financial statement reports surprisingly good camera sales, and basically Sony have increased their forecast revenue. So they're obviously doing a lot better than what they were, which is fantastic. So and I'm hoping that, this sort of flows down to all other cameras that are out there as well, manufacturers. But it looks like if you look at the figures that Sony actually are selling quite well. Just wait to see these figures when the A7 IV is released. Sony is going to go nuts when that new camera comes out. Remember, you've also got the new ZVE10, which will add to these sales as well soon. And I think that'll sell very, very well, particularly at the price range that camera is. And like I said, I think if I was buying an A6000 series camera now, I'd buy that camera over any of the other A6000 series cameras. And then you'll have the A7 IV probably announced sometime this year too. When that's announced, if they can get enough parts to it, that thing is going to sell by the bucket load. And finally, I wanted to show you this because this is interesting, this story, because I didn't notice this when I did my test review of the Godox AD100 flash. Now that I've read this article on Petapixel, I should retest it and check the white balance against the white wall. But what they're saying is that there's a green cast that's coming out of this flash. And in fact, they're saying it's that bad that you really should put a correction gel on it, of a half CT gel. But basically, let me show you the results. What they're saying is that it's giving this green cast over the image. Like I said, I only tested it outside and I did it in sunlight. Where they're saying it becomes a real issue is if you have mixed lighting, like if you had two, say if you were using an AD100 and then you were using an AD200 together, the AD200 is quite very well white balanced, whereas the AD100 isn't. And that's where you'd have an issue because you can't correct for that. If you've got two light sources that are coming in on your subject, you want the light sources to be exactly the same color temperature. Because if it's half and half, you can't fix it easily. It becomes a nightmare. And they're showing the difference here. If you look at the AD100, they're saying that it's really quite green, and it does show here as compared to the AD200. Like I said, I didn't notice because I was just outside and I used it as just one light. And to me, it looked fine, but I haven't tested it like they have here. And they did a full white balance check and they could see the color balance was different. They even said that they bought another flash because they thought it might be flash related. And they bought another flash to see if it was that issue in it. But it looks like there's a definite issue with the color balance on this. In fact, they're saying the problem is that you really should use a CT plus gel on it of a half, and then it'd correct for that white balance issue there. So I just wanted to bring it as an issue for you so that you could see where it would become an issue. I'll leave these articles down below so you can have a read of it if you want to. But anyway, I thought that would be interesting for you to have a look at. So let's go to Q&A before we finish. Let's check what people are saying, just see if we can keep coming down. Where were we up to roughly? Langston said here, I wouldn't kind of know what I'm getting, what about the screen is worth it. So you're saying you wouldn't update. Langston, I would, but it'd be interesting to see what others are saying. Greg said, I would definitely upgrade at least 3 cameras LCDs. So he would upgrade it if he had the money to upgrade it. So would I, Greg. I definitely would. Panda said, just hi. Hi, Panda. How are you? Check out some Panda's channel. He has some really cool videos going around New York at the moment. What is your favourite Sony zoom lens for video? Well, my favourite lenses are primes at the moment. I love the 24GM. I love the 135GM, and then I also like the Batis as well. To be completely honest, if I'm using zoom lens for video, I'm using the Tamron 28-75. That's my favourite zoom lens for video. Just turn that off while I coughed. Let me have a sip of my tea. It's probably cold now. Rick said, screens are hardware. I don't think they can be upgraded. I would pay to upgrade my A7 III for a new screen, new menu, and new focusing. Yeah, you may not get the new menus, though. I'm not saying that. But I think I would believe that, particularly if you were dealing with the A7 III and the A1, you couldn't tell me that they wouldn't have the hardware in these cameras to be able to just swap the screen over. I would believe that would be easily quite possible. Joseph said, favourite 85. Well, I've got the Batis. And look, I think if I was... There's a couple of things I love about the Batis, and that's why I haven't sold it. It has stabilisation because I love to use that in my A6 400. So I adore that aspect of it, and it's also got full weather sealing as well. So I love my Batis. But if I was buying a lens at the moment, I would probably just get the Sony A7 1.8. It's really great value. It's basically the same image quality that the Batis has. It just misses out really on the stabilization. And, you know, I think it's the weather sealing too is better on the Batis. The stabilization means a lot to me, particularly because I do handhold an awful lot. And having that ability to have stabilization in that 85 is fantastic. I think the lens to probably get would be the 85 if Sony brought out a new one. And I think that's probably going to happen. I'm hoping that Sony bring out a GM85 1.2. That would be unbelievable. If you got the new linear focus motors in that, it would be just fantastic. But the 85 at the moment, I'd have to say my favourite is the Batis. Flip screen and no new screen is why I didn't buy the A1. A7S III and the A7C are my current two. Yeah, the A7C is a great camera. Like I said, the only thing that misses from me on that camera is it doesn't have the dual card slots. That really matters to me, and the EVF is weak. If they upgraded those two things on the A7C, it would be brilliant. And it's going to be interesting to see where they take that camera, or whether the A7 IV has a fold-out screen. It might be that the A7 IV doesn't have a fold-out screen, and they bring out a new version of the A7 III that, you know, has those features that are now missing. And that's another option as well. Like, there's so many cameras in the Sony arsenal at the moment. Like I said, in some ways it's crazy. The real photographers don't want flip-out screens, Osler. They are for vloggers. Well, Long Rider. Just keep it closed like that. Just close the screen and keep it closed. That's what I always say to people. If you don't want to use it, don't open it. Thanks so much, Panda, for the donation. Rick said, screens are hardware. I don't think they can be upgraded. I read that before, didn't I? Yep. Wondering if HEIF format can take over from RAW for weddings. Much smaller files, but 10-bit. Yeah, I know. It's interesting to see where that goes. I still really haven't tried to work on that yet. I must have a look at to see how it does work. I was waiting on support to be added in Capture One. It probably is there now. I really should look at that and compare it. I know the HEIF format, though, is a much, much better format. And it's probably more the future. So, you know, it is going to be interesting to see how that sort of comes out. Stay tuned. I should look at that. And Langston said it's not RAW, though. Yes, it's not. It just depends too. See, the way that I work as well is I will I always shoot RAW plus JPEG. That's the way that I will always shoot. If the JPEGs are fine, I'll just use the JPEGs, because if you use something like Capture One, they come out beautiful right from the start, and you can just use those images as they are. If you need to do any editing, when I say editing, if I need to be pushing the file around, you know, a little bit, I'll then use the RAW. But the JPEGs now on the A7S III, the JPEGs on the A1, and all the newer, probably the same in the R4 as well. Yeah, they were actually. But I think they're a step up with the A7S III and the A1. If you're dealing with the JPEGs from those cameras, they are brilliant. And if you just don't need to do any more. Like I said, this was straight out of camera. Like it's had nothing done to it. All I did was I brought it into Capture One. I cropped this one because I wanted to see if it was, you know, how it would handle cropping. But the colors are gorgeous. The depth, I shouldn't say the depth of field, but the sharpness is unbelievable. The dynamic range is incredible. I don't need to do anything to it, so why would I even bother? It's, you know, the JPEGs on these new cameras are superb. So if I can use a JPEG, I will just use the JPEG. Make it easy on myself. Sigma lenses, well, we just had the new 150, didn't we, that was announced the other day. I'm sure Sigma are going to sort of do a lot more, but they seem to be being blown away by Tamron's announcements at the moment, because Tamron are just releasing so many lenses at the moment. It's incredible. You know, so I think at the moment, like I said, just wait for the G2. I'm predicting that lens is going to be incredible. If it's anything like their other lenses, it's going to be unreal. It's much better than dealing with 8-bit. I'm not sure. I think you were talking about... I'm not sure what that was about. Is that dealing with video files? Langston said, David Oster, it's painful when you do sketches to set the A7S III to 420-bit to match the A7 III. Yeah, I know, and this is the problem. This is why I'm saying it's an issue with the A9s too, because you can't match things due to the fact that you haven't got picture profiles or anything else that's available in there. The beauty is with the A7S III, though, at least you can use the picture profiles and simulate S-Cinetone, because I love using S-Cinetone. The video that I showed at the start of this today with Anya was shot in S-Cinetone. If your lighting is consistent and you don't need massive dynamic range, you know, between your highlights and the shadows, S-Cinetone I would use all day. And the good thing is you can match S-Cinetone with the A7S III, but the problem is you can't do that with the A9 in the A9 series cameras, because there's no picture profile. But yeah, if you're dealing with 420, you can't then use 422 if you're trying to match it completely. Hello, how are you? Raymond said, do you ever worry about the hinge on the A7S III screen? I tend to baby mine. No, I treat it just like anything else, and mine's been fine. I know Peter Lindgren showed a video the other day how he fixed it. I'd be a bit nervous about doing that myself, but he did pull the back off the camera and then readjust the hinges. If you search for Peter Lindgren, you'll find that. Mine's fine, and I'm not worried about it. I mean, if it does happen, I've got Sony Pro support. They'll fix it. But look, they probably could improve it, obviously, in another model. Make it a little bit stronger, perhaps. But no, I'm happy with mine. Langston says, I know I baby mine. But it's clear point of failure on the first gen implementation. Oh hell, I'm going to baby that hinge. Yeah, see, I've been treating it just the same as well as other cameras I've got. No, I haven't had any issues. Having used the A1 for a few months, all my older cameras don't come close and sit in my office unused. Yeah, I can completely understand that, Greg. It's an amazing camera. I've always preferred the reach of the 24-105 to that of the 24-70. But the 24-105 has always been f4. That Tamron 35-150 f2 to 2.8 looks interesting as possible replacement for my 24-105. Gee, yep, I'm really interested in that lens as well. That could be an incredible video lens because that is such a nice range that it would be brilliant as a video lens too, I think. Rob also said the 24-105 has always been my go-to lens. Langston said the same as well. It's my most used lens. Bull Daddy, I love that name. That's so good. I use Canon 700D. Is that good enough? Of course it is. Yep, nothing wrong with that at all. Any of the recent cameras from the last years, 10 years, is actually still good. I own Tamron too. He said he's from the Philippines. I will be first in line for the Tamron 35-150, that the 14 2.8, 35 1.8, 85 1.4, and Tamron 150-600. What a kit. That certainly is a great kit. Rick said, I can't imagine what a new 24-70 or 70-200 GM would do that current lenses cannot do. Look, Rick, it's not that they can't do it, but I shouldn't say the issue is, because for some people sharpness is not that major an issue, but those two lenses, the GM lenses, the 70-200 and the 24-70, are not as sharp as the other lenses that are out there. The other thing is too, you'll probably find that they'll be a lot smaller than the current generation of lenses, because Sony now are being able to do that with their voodoo manufacturing that they're doing. So I would expect those lenses to be much lighter and much smaller. And they definitely will be sharper, and they'll have the linear focus motors in them. I think it will be a great upgrade. And it's like anything. If you look at Canon, if you look at Nikon, they've all produced version 2s of their lenses, or version 3s, or even version 4. So it's going to happen, and they'll just be better. It's a shame Canon won't open up their mount. When Sigma and Tamron reverse engineer the RF mount, they'll create an epic affordable glass. Yeah, I'm not sure why they do that. The best thing Sony did was let anyone produce lenses for the mount. It really was. Can I ask you guys how you clean fungus on a lens? I've never done it. I've never had fungus in my lens, so I don't know. Someone else may be able to check on that. Altric's got to run. Thanks, Altric. Well, we're just about finished anyway. I expect the 70-200 to be smaller and both to resolve much higher megapixel. And John said here, you can't. The lens must be disassembled to clean mold. Yeah, I thought it was fairly bad. Mark said, just playing around with the 28-70 Sigma E-mount lens. Nice bit of kit and very small. Doing a review on it soon. Rob said, Sony 16-35 2.8 GM, Tamron 35-150, 2-2.8, and Sony 100-400 will make a great trio of lenses. Certainly would. Greg said, wondering how the Tamron are going to improve on the 28-75. I've been very impressed with that lens. So have I, Greg. But I definitely think that, like I said, I've used the G lenses before, and like I said, I used that special edition Tamron 35, and they were just something special. So if they do that on these lenses, just wait. Are Tamron gearing up for higher resolving lenses? Yes, I think that could be the case. I think they probably want to. I don't know what the resolving power is on the 28-75 now. That'd be interesting, but perhaps they are going up to, over 100 megapixel. John said Canon also exceeded Q2 earnings. Langston said that would be a nightmare. Can't say I've seen that when mixing my 200-600. Yeah, it seems to be only the 100 Godox light that's got that green tinge, Langston. So, yeah, it could be a real pain. Just trying to see, because may have to skip now because I've got definitely a coffee coming up, guys. Langston said here, I actually have a setting for my A7 III which mimics. I've got the same thing as Cinetone on my A7S III to make my life easier. Just setting it to 420 8-bit and control the highlights, and they match extremely well. They do. It was that. Oh, I always forget his name. He did a video on it. If you Google A7S III S Cinetone, it'll come up because he gives you all the settings that you have to set to do it, and it matches amazingly well. And I've used that in my A7 III as well. Callum said, the question is, shall I get the A7 III now or wait? If you can wait, I would wait. If you can't, obviously the A7 III is still an amazing camera, but if you can wait at this stage, I would wait. Can we give Sony a round of applause for fixing the clunky clank lanyard holders on the recent Sonys? Yes, that is a great thing, actually. But I always take mine off, these things. See, but the first time yet, they don't move around. See that? They actually are now quite tight, so that's much better. They used to flap around and make a hell of a noise. I always take these off because I always put them in cages. I have to get the GM lens. Oh, where were we? I have yet to get a GM lens. So many aftermarket lenses are just too good. Tamron Sigma. They are, but if you're looking at prime lenses, there's something special for me about the 24 GM. This is a terrific lens too. The 35 1.4 GM is brilliant. That was what I shot this with. If you look at that one, I did shoot this with that lens, and it's beautiful. I mean, rendering's gorgeous. Sharpness is brilliant. The colouring, everything about it is terrific. So the GM lenses are something pretty special. My favourite lens is still the 24 GM and the 135 GM. They are brilliant, and I would not get rid of those at all. I love them. This is brilliant too for stills. The issue is focus breathing on this is not very good for video. So if you're dealing with video, I certainly probably wouldn't buy the FE 135, the 35 1.4. I'd get the 24. It's an issue for that, but for stills, it's gorgeous. If you're using manual focusing though, it's not going to be an issue, and it's a stunning lens. Langston said, are you in the Facebook group? I need to find the link to that video. Yeah, don't forget, guys, we do have a Facebook group. It'll be linked in the description down below. That's the Facebook group that's linked to this channel. It's called the Photography and Videography School. Said, laugh out loud, me and David working from the same source. Yeah. The link is in the description of this video to the Facebook group. Cool. Oh, thanks, Langston. So he's already put the link there. So if you did want to do it, check out the link below, and it will say the link to my Facebook group. Just ask to join it. A couple of questions you've got to answer, and then you'll be able to join it, and then it'll be under the link of this video. David, thinking to get either the Tamron 150 to 500 or the Sigma 150 to 600. I do already have 3 other Tamron lenses. My camera is the A7C. I have to be totally honest, I haven't used the Sigma 150 to 600, but I have used the Tamron 150 to 500, and I loved it. Really did love it, in fact. Focus was incredible, super sharp. Focus was that fast in that lens, and it was nice and light. It just depends really, I think, on whether you need a 600mm lens, the extra reach. If you don't need the extra reach, I would probably just get the Tamron because you've already got the other Tamron lenses. If you need the extra reach, well then you'd obviously go for the Sigma. But you can't go wrong with either of those two lenses, I think. But I haven't used the Sigma, but I love the Tamron. I just requested to join on Facebook. Yep, you'll be added. Langston may have already added you. Everyone give a like. Yes, please, guys, if you can, I'd love it if you could give me a thumbs up. Does make a massive difference. What is your opinion on upgrading the A7 IV from the A7 III? It's massive. The A7 IV is a much better camera. I mean, it's a much better camera than the A7 III. But the A7 III is still a terrific camera. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it at all. It's brilliant in most aspects. The only thing I suppose is the EVF could be a bit better. You know, they did sort of push that down. Now it's probably starting to show its age a little bit, and that's why they'll upgrade the camera. I think the A7 IV is a better option, but it depends on whether you also want the resolution. He just posted the link in the group. Thanks, Langston, for that. And that's it. All right, everyone, that's it for now. Thank you all so much for joining up. Please, if you can, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I really would love you to subscribe to the channel. And apart from that, everyone, I'll see you in some videos that I've got coming up this week. Also, remember too, I will have a review up of the A1 and what I've shot so far. Last question before I sign off. Ken said, would you purchase the Sony A7S III or wait to replace it when the price goes down? No, if I needed it, I'd get another one now. If I had the money now, I would buy another one. I really would. I love it that much. All right, everyone. I'll see you in the next video. I've just got to find where it says there the ending. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great weekend.
If you're looking for some